And we are live.
Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski and Jason Burmis of WeAreChange.org here for our live Sunday show. And today is September 30th, 2018, 7 p.m. Eastern. Okay, we're a little bit late. We apologize. Technical difficulties that we have to deal with, but it's okay. We're still here, and we're going to be live for the next hour covering all the top news that happened this entire week. So if you're a lazy person that doesn't like to pay attention to the disillusioned, crazy, insane political circus that we call our political discourse, this show is for you, where we give you pretty much the sound bites of everything important that happened that you guys should know about. And of course, we're going to be live on Facebook, Periscope. The episode of this podcast will be available on iTunes later, but primarily we're going to be talking to all you wonderful, amazing human beings on YouTube, where, of course, we will accept your super chats, sponsored by you, the people, unlike mass corporations and big government giving news organizations money to control their narrative. So we always appreciate the super chats and the conversations that we have with you guys on youtube.com/WeAreChange. And yeah, this week's pretty crazy. We're going to get into a lot of topics. We're going to get into the topic of ye. If you don't know what ye is, get prepared to understand what ye is. The very easy topic of race relations, the robot sex doll apocalypse, plus a lot more. And then I got a whole bunch of stuff I want to argue with you about, Jason, whether it's government or Conor McGregor. I want to debate, and we're going to have that debate here. But right now I am at an undisclosed location on the eastern seaboard. Obviously, you don't see me here in my studio. I'm saying that because really I'm just at a friend's house who's a YouTuber who does similar work like I do. And he was telling me, yeah, try to keep my location a little bit quiet because there's people trying to attack me for having a different opinion than them. This is, we also face this very similar kind of harassment and attacks, but seeing my friend go through it too just really makes you epitomize the political discourse that we're having right now in the United States, where someone's like, you have a different opinion than me. My cognitive functions can't handle it, so I'm going to try to show up to your house and hurt you. That's pretty much where we are in our political landscape, Jason. And yeah, that's something we have to deal with as well. So yeah, that's my take on it. Jason, how are you, and how's your week?
My week's been pretty good. I can't really complain. A lot of news, a lot of watching the Kavanaugh hearings, obviously, which were kind of tireless, and that's what's been in, I guess, the large scale, quote unquote, left-right divide that we've seen this week. I mean, people threatening each other on Facebook like I've never seen before in my life. The memes are just ridiculous. It's literally become a Hollywood circus sideshow. Friendships have been lost. Divorces are in the works over a lot of nothing, my man. Over a lot of basically distraction stuff. And the thing is, like, for instance, that big skit last night over on SNL, right? It's got 6 million plus views since yesterday. When was the last time any kind of politics garnered that kind of attention? And why? Because it's a sleazy sex scandal. That's why. If it had anything to do...
Well, obviously, politics is dirty. Politics is all just an illusion of so-called control that a few people have on us. It's not it's about the important news that actually matters and affects us. When has there been a time where something that actually affects us actually matters in our lives that has garnered so many views, just like SNL did last night?
Not many. Not many times. That's what I'm saying. It's a real problem. For instance, if this was a big issue, Luke, where they were talking Fourth Amendment and that's why this guy should not be there, I'd be the first in line, and I know you would be too, right? But that's not what this is about. We're not talking about freedom. We're not talking about civil liberties. We're not talking about authoritarianism. We're talking about Matt Damon impersonating Kavanaugh talking about lifting weights and crying in high school. That's where we're at.
I gotta say, that was a pretty. I saw the skit. It was a good skit, but it is kind of hypocritical with Matt Damon also kind of being buddy with Mr. Harvey Weinstein, the pretty much one of the kingpins. One of them. There's many out there still of sexual predators who are a part of the establishment and, of course, the bigger Hollywood circles that are all interconnected. Also, me and my friend Tim Pool, we saw. Fahrenheit 11/9. We just released a video earlier today with our official review on that movie. It was so hypocritical because he's like, look, the media got Trump into power. And then he goes on and lists all the sexual predators and be like, look at all these white men being predators. And I'm like, do people forget the fact that Harvey Weinstein also produced Fahrenheit 11/9? They edited it out of the credits, his name out of there. But people need to remember this movie that flopped and was absolutely trash and horrible was produced by Harvey frickin' Weinstein. And again, just the hypocrisy, just the bullcrap that's all around us is seething, and that's why no one really likes politics. That's why the majority of people don't vote. That's why the majority of people don't care about politics, and they're more kind of, I would say, more kind of illusioned by all the celebritard news that's happening. That, of course, we're going to cover, but we're going to give our own specific context to just how ridiculous and stupid it is.
Well, we will indeed, because I'm sure that we have differing opinions on the whole Kanye West situation. I want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt, but every time I see him try to do something political, Luke, all I can think about is that South Park episode where he's the voice of a generation. I'm the voice of a generation, and to me, we've talked about it before. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about freedom of speech. We're going to get into a ton of stuff that he's
well,
blown
let's just
up.
get into it right now, because
Sure.
obviously everyone right now is talking about Kanye West being on Saturday Night Live yesterday, and SNL deciding to stop the broadcast when Kanye West was delivering a speech about Donald Trump running for president and a lot more. And Kanye West on television, which was, of course, censored by SNL, other people recorded it, said, quote, oh, God, I have to quote Kanye West. This is going to be embarrassing. Y'all be going at Trump. I don't think it's actually that helpful. I think the universe has balance. 90% of the news are liberal. 90% of TV, LA, New York, writers, rappers, musicians. So it's easy to make it seem like it's so one-sided. That's literally what Kanye West said last night. He also went on and said, quote, there's so many times I talk to like a white person about this and they say, how could you like Trump? He's racist. Well, if I was concerned about racism, I would have moved out of America a long time ago. The most interesting facet of the conversation that happened with Kanye was when he was on stage, and he also talked about how people were bullying him backstage and were telling him not to go out there with Donald Trump's Make America Great Again red hat. And he even described himself being bullied and saying that he was in a sunken place. Now, of course, the media characterized this as a bizarre rant. Other people on the right wing are taking this as, Donald Trump coming into the national discourse and trying to build a dialogue between both sides of America. So depending on what side you're leaning, there's different opinions of what we saw with Kanye West on Saturday Night Live. He's still tweeting right now. He's tweeting a whole bunch of stuff. And obviously a lot of right-wingers are clinging on to this because they're like, look, we have Kanye West now. Kanye West is on our side. And I'm saying, well, that's kind of stupid, because Kanye West, to me, from my experience covering Kanye West news and covering the political discourse, is using this as a marketing opportunity like he did before with his album coming out. Before his album came out, he made similar statements. He wore the MAGA hat and then spurred huge controversy. And I think he's playing out of the Kim Kardashian, Bruce Jenner playbook, understanding that controversy is views, is attention. And ever since his album released, no one really has been talking about him. No one really has been bringing him into the spotlight. And now, bam, because he's making some Make America Great comments, automatically everyone's talking about him. People love him. People hate him, just like the Kardashians, just like Bruce Jenner. And it works in the playbook of marketing. And to me, this is all just a big marketing play. And the people on the right wing promoting this are also just ultimately getting played, because Kanye West flip-flops on his views. One time he's supporting partling shootings and gun control, at another time he's like, right now I'm looking at his Twitter, and he just tweeted, Amera, I can. And he's talking about the 13th Amendment and how the 13th Amendment is slavery in disguise, saying that it never ended and that we need a solution. He posted himself with a MAGA hat on a private jet, talking about how Donald Trump is no longer outsourcing jobs to the country, building factories here in the United States. And it goes along with what just happened previously, with also him changing his name officially to now Ye. Say this with me, Jason. Ye. His new name is now Ye. another kind of marketing ploy. And to me, the whole SNL controversy that's brewing right now, that people are debating fiercely, that are trying to bring in race relations into, it really is exemplified by one of the comments that I heard last night with a fan screaming at Kanye West during his performance, saying, "I love you, Kanye," and Kanye responding back on the microphone saying, "Yeah, I love me too." This is pretty much the epitome of what I see happening here. And then, of course, right-wingers clinging on this, using this as a way to better their kind of race relations, being like, "We got Kanye, we got Kanye," and the left wings responding and trying to tar and feather him, and Kanye sitting there getting all the attention, getting all the, of course, financial rewards and attention rewards and entertainment industry buzzing about him, and he's happy. So you have that aspect on the right, which I believe does need to be considered, and I believe this is the same kind of conclusion we had during the previous controversy that everyone was talking about right before his album, right, Jason?
Yep, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Marketing genius, crazy fool otherwise. He knows how to get attention. His wife knows how to get attention. Last night I got home and there were some damn kids on my lawn because I live next to a fraternity house. Dude, I came back and there were literally like 5 people running out to pee from my house. They were peeing on my house. I had to kick people off my lawn. They were over on my sister's car. So I trekked upstairs a little after midnight, and this girl I know, I haven't talked to her in years, she posted the picture of Kanye in the Dom Perignon suit. And I'm thinking to myself, all day I've seen the MAGA stuff. I saw the Tomorrow's News Today crew talking about how he magically talked about Alex Jones and Trump being the awakening. There's no video of it. There's no proof that happened. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. They're saying that it was edited out of the video feeds. This is when he went to, what was Fader magazine? He went to the Fader magazine. He started reading poetry. Okay? He's wearing a Kaepernick shirt, and he's wearing a MAGA hat. And people are jumping on this. Well, I'm not jumping on this pony, guys. Let me tell you why. And I know people are going to get mad in the chat. Mentally unstable individuals do not help your case in the long run. I have experience with this. Charlie Sheen is a great example. He did us no favors, really, beyond that one C-SPAN hearing we got, which was good. But think about, in retrospect, the tiger blood, the allegations, it's not great. So you glom onto a guy like this who's ranting in the middle of New York City with his phone, complaining about beefs with Drake and every other stupid rapper about his fake wife that had 2 husbands before him and sells everything she can to every gullible attention whore selfie mother trucker out there. And you're going to be sorry. I'm sorry. This guy is not the voice of my generation. I assure you of that. And like you said, this is a great publicity stunt because who the hell gives a shizzle about Ye? The big talk on the streets with the kids right now, Luke, as far as I know, is the Carter 5. And good for Lil Wayne. I really don't love his rap, but I like a lot of his message. Lil Wayne, you know what he doesn't focus on? Racism. He wouldn't tweet something ridiculous like he did. If I wanted to leave America because of racism, if I cared about racism, like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, and the right wingers are loving this up, and they're eating all of this up and promoting it like they're actually doing some kind of service here, and they're not. But don't worry, the left wingers are just totally bat poop crazy. The family friendly show. We can't curse here. And I want to bring this to the next article showing just how the left wingers are just totally bonanzas when it comes to the whole bigger topic of race relations. As we got a news article by The Telegraph that says that a British army is, quote, under fire for a, quote, racist tweet that showed a soldier with a black face paint. And obviously this is camouflage by the British military fighting in different territories all around the world. And the British Army had to apologize for this because they show the soldier wearing camouflage. And they had to apologize. And this is the main controversy that The Telegraph and other people are making an issue of. Something that obviously I mean, from my take on it, this wasn't racist. This was what the military actively does. They go into the jungle, they put on camouflage. We saw this in so many Hollywood movies. We saw this during so many times of war. They use Spain, especially in jungle territories. And now there's a big outrage because everyone's calling it racist for some reason. Meanwhile, as everyone's talking about and looking for all these racist boogeymen everywhere, no matter where they could find it, even if it's the British military putting on camouflage, what's happening right now in Yemen is this conflict that's happening there is entering its fourth year with close to 8 million Yemenis people on the brink of starvation, millions of people on the brink of death because of disease, because of the UK, US, Saudi-led coalition that is raging a war down there that no one wants to talk about, that is creating the world's worst humanitarian crisis. So when everyone's obsessing about race, looking for every racist in every single closet that they could possibly try to find, even if it's the British military wearing camouflage, that's a big issue. No, but them bombing, attacking, killing, starving an entire population of people, no. That's not important. And this is just showing you how this perpetuated race relations crap that's being shoved down the people's throats is killing the discourse and hurting actual things that do matter in our life. The left-wingers are absolutely nuts. The people, especially with this specific issue, because you would think murder, death, starvation, disease would be a lot better than them assuming that the British Army is all racist because of camouflage. Please convince me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but this is just absolutely absurd, Jason.
Well, when we live in a country, again, that obsesses over a man dressed in a Dom Perignon bottle that rants and raves while his wife peddles apps to children where they can dress, with more makeup, be more appealing, targeted at small children, what do we expect? That's when we get a world, Luke, where the ludicrousness of military preparing for operations by putting has anyone seen Predator? Have we seen is Schwarzenegger now a racist because he wanted to survive the attack from the Predator and he put mud all over his body, Luke? I think there was insinuations there. And by the way, Schwarzenegger is kind of a racist. Comes from an Austrian white supremacy family.
Some of the comments he made, especially when he was weightlifting, were like, holy I confronted Arnold Schwarzenegger about having ties to actual Nazis and saying really horrible racist things. You can look up WeAreChange Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can see me chasing him down the streets of Yale being like, answer these damn questions, you racist Nazi. Because if you're going to call anybody that, you call someone who actually did racist things and who has actual connections to Nazis. Yes, but and I'm reading some of the comments here, and one of the people in the comment section right now is saying racism exists, dude, and it is and always will be a problem if we ignore it. It is not a fantasy. I'm not saying racism is not a fantasy. I'm saying that if your whole outrage against the British military is that they're putting on camouflage and not that they're murdering people, you got a problem. You have some issues that you need to sort out in your life if you're really upset and butthurt and looking for anything to trigger people to make that an issue, except for the actual crimes that are happening. So yes, race is an issue, but like this is absolutely ridiculous. That kills the discourse, creates a witch hunt society over ridiculous things that have no actual merit or impact. People are just looking to be offended just to be offended, just to justify their victimized mentality. And it's something that needs to be called out. It's something that's ridiculous and something that is holding everyone back. You could deal with racism when it's actual racism, not when it's a British military putting camouflage on. Please prove me if I'm wrong in the comments.
No, listen, section. By the way, I've seen some of the comments. I'm not trying to marginalize real racism, but I just brought up real racism. Let's take a look. That's not just, because a lot of people say, well, his dad was a Nazi, can't do anything about that. His stepfather was a Nazi, can't do anything about that. Well, how about his relationship to Kurt Waldheim, top Nazi, oh, by the way, big time into the United Nations. And when it finally came out that Kurt Waldheim was a top Nazi, You know what Arnold Schwarzenegger said? He said, Maria and I love him. He will be at our wedding. He will be at our wedding. We love Kurt. He's a good
Arnold
man.
Schwarzenegger literally had an SS belt buckle. Like this is the man, and the left loves him. The left's like, oh yeah, he was the governor of California. He's a good guy. No. See, actual issues, those get swept underneath the rug. Actual genocide, actual war, actual starvation of an entire population of people. No. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about anything we can just to make ourselves hurt and make an issue out of absolutely nothing.
And you know what? Let's get to that first super chat of the day because this intertwines right in there, guys. Jesse Schmidt, also a member. By the way, we have a new member, Nicholas Peter. Jesse Schmidt, always a part of the conversation. Thank you so much. Remember when nobody really talked about racism back? Excuse me. In the early 2000s, Dave Chappelle had his show making fun of people's little quirks, and we could all laugh. Dave Chappelle pushed boundaries, and it was never upsetting. It was actually accepting, I believe, Luke. I think that we made huge strides in not only the early 2000s, but throughout the 90s. There was a lot more racism when I was a kid in the 80s. I know I'm a little bit older than you. But progressively, things got better, and almost to a tone, I'd say, in 2008, before the election of Barack Obama, I guess when he was running, race relations started to rev up. They tried to play that card again and again and again. But before that, I only saw positivity unless you saw people who were race mongers like, I don't know, Al Sharpton.
Yeah. And then there's also amazing people like George Carlin that brought perspective into this issue that I found very valid and very open. And what's happening right now is they're creating this kind of society of fear where people are even afraid to talk about this honestly, where comedians are being persecuted for obviously making jokes, not intending to hurt people, but intending to make people laugh. And the way that things are going are extremely dangerous, especially with the government being involved and trying to go after anyone that they disagree with, trying to control speech. So this is something that definitely does need to talk about. I still think the foreign policy issue, especially if you look at the taxes of this country, of everyone going towards horrible acts all around the world, are a lot more important. But this is becoming more of an issue every single day, and I believe having an open, honest dialogue is the best way that we could get rid of this. And if someone's being an idiot, we could only know that if we have this open discussion, and I think we deserve to know who believes what. And this is definitely detrimental, but that's just a whole another topic. To me, millions of starving kids all around the world, and then having all these parasites control the dialogue, that to me is the issue. And these parasites are only given more kind of energy and more room to grow because of the mainstream media and the Telegraph making things that are not issues, with people concentrating on them because the media focuses that attention on you, focuses on things that will divide and conquer humanity, divide and conquer people, have us on two opposing sides so we could fight each other instead of seeing mutually our differences, agreeing to disagree, coming together and seeing the problems that we are plagued with together. And to me, the economic problems, the injustice issues, the war issues, the bankster issues, the corporatist issues are a lot more important than the other fury, emotional, manipulated bullcrap that they're trying to push on you and everyone else.
Yeah, I'm with you, big guy. Again, if we were dealing with real issues, if there was real racism that we were actually tackling instead of selective racism like this, this is social triggering nightmare to me, that every little thing, we've already seen that everything we do in our lives can be deconstructed at any moment. We now know we've been putting social media up for well over a decade. Can you imagine if we're on this course, Luke, this same course where we demonize everything progressively more and more and more and restrict speech more and more and more and push social mores to a point where one side basically gets to decide what we're able to think, and unfortunately, that's where we're moving towards. Where will we be in 2025 or 2030?
Not in a good place. But that's why we're still continuing to do our work here and do our best here, even though we're facing a lot of censorship efforts, even though we're getting screwed over. Man, I'm looking at what's happening with other YouTubers and what's happening with us, and I'm like, Holy cow! It's mind-boggling. I mean, there's even private companies that we have contracts with that YouTube reaches out to and tells them to terminate the contracts. Like, this is the type of level of crap that we have to deal with here, just being an independent news organization that is not stifled or censored by all the social controllers and all the censorship and all the propaganda that they're trying to shove down your throats. We're trying to get that out of your throat, out of your passageways, and open up some fresh air and some open-mindedness and some real dialogue, some real conversation, and some actual real news that matters. And on that point, we should get to Monday's article. Jason, what do we have lined up for Monday?
So Monday is the Julian Assange case, where the Guardian had previously reported that Russia attempted to get him out of the Ecuadorian embassy just before Christmas, but that plan just did not go through. Now, Russia has denied this. This is their response. And I guess in a semblance of somewhat respectable journalism, although the Guardian has not retracted their story, they did print the Russian embassy's denial in full. And this one's really hard to say. This could easily be propaganda to kind of push the connection between Assange, Russia, Russiagate, Trump, we got him elected, or there is the possibility, we know that Russia has allowed Edward Snowden to take refuge there. So I don't know. What's your take? Do you think that the Guardian got this story wrong, that this is a Russian propaganda response, or is it vice versa? Is it more propaganda to get people to believe that Russia somehow manipulated the election and Donald Trump must pay?
Yeah, well, let's be honest here and let's cover this story as fairly as we can, because as we know, Russia, China, Israel, the United States, all of these countries spy on each other. All of these countries try to influence one another in one way or another. Some countries are more successful at it. I would say Israel is one of the most successful countries in their lobbying efforts and also in their spying efforts. That's not really talked about. But yeah, there is shady stuff happening between all the major governments going against each other in all these different ways. So that aspect does exist. Whether it got Donald Trump elected, there honestly hasn't been any solid proof. This whole controversy that has been spurred up, I don't know to the extent that the supposed Russians went, all this controversy, all these investigations haven't really found anything legit or concrete. They got a couple of Trump guys on mainly perjury, right? And with this whole case of Julian Assange, it could be that the UK government is completely lying, but it also could be that the Russian government could be completely lying, because now Russia, with having Edward Snowden, they kind of have him as like a little bargaining chip. They could be like, well, we could give you Edward Snowden if you give us this. So Edward Snowden ending up in Russia kind of works in the benefit of Russia with a bigger bargaining chip, because there was even talks of Barack Obama trading Edward Snowden for another geopolitical move between him and Vladimir Putin. And it wouldn't surprise me with how aggressive the intelligence community is going after people like Assange, with this whole circus that's erupting in the embassy, with how far they have been going to trying to get Edward Snowden. If Russia doesn't see this as some kind of pawn that they could use for later negotiations and later trading. So it could be either or possibility here. I'm a little bit more skeptical on the UK side, to be honest, because obviously if they're saying, this is coming out from a publication, The Guardian, which has been biased. Their coverage has not been good. They've been caught falsifying information before. So I tend not to trust The Guardian. Russian government also has not that best of record being just honest, but at the same time, they are more official than just The Guardian as a publication, and The Guardian should release some documents if they have any proof of evidence about this. And unless they have any proof, their word shouldn't be taken seriously. This is what people need to understand here. We could always act with our emotions. We could always act on what happened before, but really let the evidence speak for itself. Where's the evidence, The Guardian? Let's see what you guys have that actually proves this story. And I don't know if you've seen it, Jason, but I haven't seen it.
Well, that's the one thing that I'm going to have to give the Russian government. First of all, their response was very short, curt denial. And unfortunately, they haven't done themselves any favors, right, Luke? Especially by really promoting the dossier in the European and really Western media. And we all know that the dossier is a series of interviews, highly questionable. You've got Tom Arnold running around for Vice, uh, basically trying to find and says he's seen the PP tapes. He's seen
Really?
them.
Did that happen? Wait, expand on that a little bit.
What's that?
Expand on the Tom Arnold Vice News thing.
So, for those that don't know, and I remember when this first broke. It was months before the show actually came out, and I read about it. I actually talked to you and Mark Dice about it because I was just like, this is absolutely ridiculous. So, Tom Arnold, who made his way as a B-list actor, who married Roseanne, that's how his claim to fame, and then somehow landed a deal to star with Arnold Schwarzenegger in True Lies, where he was pretty charming. He ended up being kind of like this bit character in Hollywood. And at one point, one of those trash jobs that he took was on The Apprentice. So he spent a bunch of time with Donald Trump, seemed to like the guy. And now, because I think he saw an opportunity, I don't think that he's even genuine that he doesn't think Trump should be president. He's like, how do I get more famous? He made a deal with Vice that he's got a series now where he's hunting down the Trump tapes. That's what he's doing. And he's literally said now publicly, first of all, before Cohen's office was raided and all the nonsense, he ran into Cohen in a hallway and got him to take a selfie, and he made a big deal. Cohen has sat down. He's given me the goods. We've got it all. He's tweeting all this nonsense out. And he said, by God, he's seen the Trump PP tapes. And I don't believe him. But, also over a year ago now, I think one of the first stories, maybe first 5 or 10 stories I did for your WeAreChange while I was just doing part-time, was a story about how there were actually a bunch of fake sex tapes with Trump. And as you know, Luke, we've covered it here. You really can't believe much of what you see and hear anymore. As, yes, fake sex tapes, maybe fake PP tapes. They said there were up to 14 fake tapes in this article. I'd have to go all the way back to the video to know what to source. But we know what digital technology can do. If there was a grainy VHS tape leaked from the 80s where Trump was being peed on, I'd be a little skeptical. What do you think, Luke?
I mean, no, sheesh, Sherlock. I mean, God, look what happened in Vice News. I mean, they were one of the most popular kind of alternative publications out there. They were kind of underground. People were like, oh, yeah, they're pretty hip. They're pretty different. They're doing all this kind of cool coverage all around the world. And literally, they are now having washed-up actors looking for Russian P sex tapes. This is where they have stooped to in their publication, and look what happened to them. Look, the obvious involvement of the State Department, the government officials, Bank of America, and all these other large corporate institutions played a huge role in what Vice News has become right now, and that is absolute filth and trash, just ultimately prostitute whores who are willing to bend over and take whatever corporate crap and PR nonsense that they want regurgitated out to the American public. And right now, literally, washed-up actors looking for Russian P sex tapes is what they're doing. This is why the mainstream media is losing credibility. This is why people are going to alternative media sources, and this is why we're getting censored, because mass corporations like Vice right now and CNN that are losing ratings are seeing us as a threat because we're not sick like they are. We're not demented like they are. We're not sellouts and whores like they are. And that's ultimately the biggest threat against them is real information that's coming out there. And that's why we do this show, and that's why we do a video almost we do a video every single day. Sometimes we do it even twice a day. But we're going to change up our style because I'm learning a couple things here too, and we definitely got to change up how we do our operations. But that's a whole nother topic because obviously we are just getting royally screwed on this platform, or we're going to have to move away from that. But let's continue on, unless you want to say something else about this specific story to Tuesday's story.
No, yeah, I wanted to bring this one in the news story here, Luke, because as you came back from Acapulco, Mexico, and I remember I watched your videos. Obviously, I do a lot of the posting. I watch everything that we do. And you talked about Well, and I think we talked about it on Sunday that a lot of people said that there really wasn't, you didn't see crime in Acapulco and you didn't think it was that corrupt. Yet, right after you left, entire Acapulco police force disarmed due to links to drug gangs. So I wanted to hear it from the source. I mean, you couldn't get closer to that operation unless you were an Acapulco police officer or gang member, apparently. So, what is your take on this? Is this all propaganda? Or was it a pinch? What's going on? Were they too honest?
Well, no, no, I don't know the deep inside story. I was a little disappointed because I actually left the day before this news broke, and there was a lot of media publications down there filming the federale police coming in there and disarming the local police. But Acapulco, there's many different areas to Acapulco. There's the touristy zones, there's safe zones, there's the barrio zones, there's places within hills, there's places that are in between those areas, there's market areas. It's a whole different area. But Acapulco, historically, and the territory of Guerrero, which is in the state of which is the state of Acapulco, has been very resilient and rebellious towards authority. This is where the Spaniards faced their fiercest fighting. This is where kind of the Aztec warrior culture came from. It all came pretty much from the state of Guerrero. And from what we're seeing and from what I'm hearing different people talk about, this is pretty much vying for power and vying for control. And there have been many disagreements between the state of Guerrero and the federal government, especially when it comes to collecting taxes, because ultimately the people of Mexico don't like paying taxes. They don't like government. They don't like authority, and they especially do not like it in Guerrero. So is there some corruption? There's corruption in all police academies and all police departments. That goes without saying. Even here in New York City, there was NYPD officers caught running a prostitution ring and a drug ring. This happens a lot. So was there some corruption? Yeah, obviously. Is this most likely a bigger play for more power and more control and more extortion? Yes. How big the corruption got? It's very hard to gauge and gap because there is a clear bias. Jeff Berwick actually left a very important comment. He talked to me about this. He left a comment for the Free Thought Project and has been speaking about this. And he said, quote, "Your average Mexican doesn't like government or police. And in Mexico, there isn't much difference between the cartels, government, and police. They are all factions of the same groups." And he went on and saying that police and the cartels in Mexico are the least harmful, have been the cartels. So Jeff has his own kind of knowledge from just living there and knowing people there. To me, it wouldn't be surprised if this was a bigger ploy for more kind of power and control by the federales, who are having a very hard time controlling the state of Guerrero, and that's why they're bringing in extra additional forces. The level of corruption does exist, like it does anywhere else. How big it is, it's very hard to determine, honestly.
Well, I am glad I'm hearing it from you because you obviously have a much more experience with that than me. And it is interesting. I mean, it's not something you see in the United States. Every once in a while, you see a police chief quit or a small town, the entire force goes down for corruption. Or like we saw in New York City, a group of NYPD officers running a brothel, things of that nature. But you never see them come in and say, you know what, we're disarming the entire police
Yeah.
force. Pretty incredible
And
stuff.
again, people need to understand here. I have my own personal view on it. I mean, I've been to Acapulco almost 30 times now, so I've been to Acapulco a lot, but mainly on the touristy things. And throughout my experiences, I have never seen a violent act. I have never seen a robbery. I have never seen a homicide. I have never seen anything go wrong. But again, I go sometimes to some of the topper barrio areas, but not that often. I'm mainly in the kind of main roadway, in the main street, in the main places where everyone goes to the beach and hangs out in. So again, my perspective could be skewed, but for my own personal skewed experiences, I have never seen any harm done to anyone down in Acapulco, even though it is labeled, it was labeled a few months ago the second murder capital of the world. I was at the first murder capital of the world, Caracas, Venezuela, and that place is totally different compared to Acapulco. Way, way, way different. But again, I could be completely, absolutely wrong. I'm only hanging around in Acapulco. The state of Guerrero is very large. There's other territories. I haven't been through all of Acapulco. So again, my own personal perspective comes from my own bias because of what I experienced down there.
Well, Luke, let's move on to the next story. And, I suppose a lot of the right-wingers, they're going to like that I bring this one up. But I don't really think this is a right-left issue. And it's kind of close to home to me because, I lived in Texas for a while. And I saw, what sanctuary cities could be. And, folks, this instance of an El Salvador man who has been deported 6 different times. 6 different times. He gets picked up by the Texas cops. They let him go. And he kills, 3 people, I believe? Yes, he murdered 3 people. And to me, Luke, this isn't me saying, oh, there are some good ones or they're all bad or something like that. I'm just saying this is why we need a realistic immigration system where it's not
so
just
let's get the facts of the story here. He was deported 6 times. Just 9 days before going on this rampage, and the police had him in custody and decided to release him?
Yeah, so 9 days before he goes on this rampage, a man, again, I'm going to repeat this, that had been deported 6 times previously, not in the country legally. And again, you have to understand, folks, that in these sanctuary cities, I'm not saying that it's 6 times, but they catch and then release people that have been deported multiple times. Yes, that's not news. And I'm not saying all those people are bad. But how is it that we have a system where an El Salvadorian come in 6 different times, get picked up, and less than a week and a half later murder 3 people? And it wouldn't matter if he was from South America
the police
or
are
he
saying
was
that
from...
they had, quote, no probable cause to book or arrest the 6th time deportee.
Because again, when you're in these cities, and this is my problem with sanctuary cities, Luke. When you're in these cities, I saw it time and time again in Austin. I remember when I tried to go get a license in Austin. Okay, I went in there with my social security card, obviously a couple credit cards, Luke, and my New York State license. I thought no problem. I had never been in the DMV that long, upstate New York. It's not that bad. I watched several different people who did not speak English walk out of there with Texas licenses. When I got up there with my information, they would not give me a Texas license because I did not have my birth certificate. I asked them if there was any other forms that I could have. They said no. And that's when I lost it.
You should have been like, ¿Qué pasó, pendejo?
Because, again, I just thought that was absolutely ludicrous. I'd gone through every other system, and that's a broken system. And obviously, this is an extreme case. I don't want to say that.
Spanish, Jason. I would have taken advantage of that situation.
Yeah, I guess I should have brushed up on my Spanish.
If the system's broken, don't fix it. Let it just collapse.
Oh, it needs to collapse, Luke? Is that what happens? Come on, man.
No. I'm just being.
I know you're being the anarchist that everybody loves. Acapulco's coming up.
Jab the statist side of you.
Yeah, I know. You're right. I am such a brutal authoritarian statist that I want a system.
Coming with your government paperwork. Hi, I'm here at the DMV. My name's Jason Vermis. Oh, I don't have my documents as you're giving driver's license to everyone else. But whoopsie daisy.
I had my documents, sir. I had my documents.
You need to try to vote harder next time. Come on, Jason. I would have been like, órale, amigos. ¿Qué pasó? Necesito driver's license right now. And I would have gotten it.
You would have gotten it. All right. Well, Jesse Schmidt says in another, thank you so much, Jesse. We really appreciate it. Cops are government. It's obligatory that what they do doesn't make sense. And again, I'm not behind. First of all, I'm the first guy to call out actual police brutality. Do videos on it all the time. Been talking about it well over a decade. I think it's a real issue. I think it's an issue with people like Eric Garner. I totally agree with that. I just don't understand why people think that they can get away without having law enforcement. Even your little anarchy town has militias, has some kind of law enforcement. Yes, they're not called El Policia, but they do a similar thing, right, Luke?
Well, the militia mainly is a volunteer organization that cannot intervene or hurt someone when they're not hurting someone else, unlike the other ruling authorities. And they're mainly there to keep their borders protected because obviously they have a lot of enemies and they're living in a very dangerous state. And to keep the peace from organized crime. And another way of saying organized crime is just pretty much saying police or government. That's really ultimately what they are. If you look at the basic definitions of them, they are organized crime. They take a racket, they take a collection, they supposedly protect you. No, they don't. They don't protect you in New York City. In New York City, your main issue is, oh, your windows are tinted. Oh, we're going to be here for half an hour as we look at this stupid device that they gave me. All for your safety and security. Meanwhile, look what happened in Texas, as you're describing. They don't give a damn about the population here. The New York City Police Department even argued favorably in court that they do not have to protect their citizens. It is not their duty to protect and serve. They are an organized crime racket that is meant to extort money from the people. What was the question you asked? Sorry, I got off on a tangent.
What question did I ask about this?
Yeah.
I don't know. You just started going
No. You asked me about the militias.
Oh yeah. We were talking about that, but then you kind of like broke off. You basically said they couldn't. Hold on, I want to take you to task with what you did say.
I get passionate about this issue.
All right. Because let's take you to task a little bit about what you did say. You said they can't intervene unless they're physically harming somebody else, right?
Well, they have a decentralized kind of form of existing together instead of a centralized control system. So they deal with situations a lot differently than they do like in the States. So let's take a crime for a matter. There's a crime of the most crime that happens in that town are pretty much young kids doing drugs or consuming a lot of alcohol, people driving drunk. And what happens, they choose, instead of severe punishment, they make sure that people have to go towards community service and go to rehabilitation to get better, to get rid of their substance abuse problems, which a lot of crime usually happens because of, and they try to deal with the situation through a recovery system rather than a punishment system where people are thrown in jail and made to be worse criminals and waste more tax dollars from extortion rackets that are taken away from the people.
Well, I don't think you need to lecture me on the drug war. I think we're on the same page there, big guy. But all right. Well, again, I guess I'd have to see it firsthand to make a true judgment. But I just like to reiterate once again, there is some type of law enforcement there. You can label it anything you want.
Militias. Private militias, private citizens protecting their territory, protecting nature, and making sure not a damn politician goes into that place. And the whole community said, you know what, we don't like politicians. We don't like political campaigns. We don't like living, scathing thieves, a.k.a. mobsters, a.k.a. government, police, existing in our life. So we're going to make sure that they can't come in, and we're going to have a voluntary militia with guns, AK-47s, AR-15s, M16s. They have a whole slurry of guns, and we're going to make sure no politician can enter this town and divide and conquer us like they did before. Again, this is a whole documentary. I released 3 videos on this. If you look up Tehran and WeAreChange, or just Mexico WeAreChange, you'll be able to see all the videos. One's a short documentary. I put like a whole week into doing drones and interviews and editing this thing and putting music in there. Got like 18,000 views. I'm pulling my hair out here, being like, I just spent a whole week traveling, being there, and then like no one sees it. So a little disappointing, but that's regardless of the fact. I definitely still do recommend that documentary because I believe it does shift a lot of paradigms and what is possible in our life that a lot of people automatically be like, oh no, if there was no government, if there was no police, there would be total chaos. No, the case of Tehran, Mexico, this whole documentary that we made proves that that is not the case. And that's my own personal biased opinion on it, and I know Jason disagrees with me. If you want to rebuttal, you can, or we can go on to the next story and finish off this story.
Okay, well, I wasn't disagreeing on the basis of that story. I think it's a great adventure and a great little peace loop, but I want to move on from one part of Texas to the next.
And Houston, this is Thursday's story?
Yes, or is it Wednesday's? Let me see. How many are we in? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? No, you're right, it's Thursday. So, Thursday's story, here we go. Yeah, you better believe it. We had a sex doll story out in Europe.
Apocalypse is upon us.
Yes, I mean, we were talking me and you were talking back and forth about the European one, and we're like, oh my goodness. And we got a little funny with it. You know, we talked a little Westworld, we talked a little ha-ha, funny. But now we're talking Houston, and this guy's already opened one in Toronto. And the mayor is basically saying, sir, we don't want this type of business here. And I can't say that I blame
getting
him.
in the way of human beings having voluntary sessions and private time with some sex robots. That is that's ridiculous.
So
If that doesn't make you hate government, Jason, I don't know what does.
I don't think.
Right,
First
Jason?
of all, here's the problem. The government
What's the
should.
problem?
Hold on. Let's be honest.
What's the problem with someone having consensual? I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah,
What's
I bet
the
you are.
problem with people having consensual robot sex?
So again, Luke, I'm not saying, the government should get involved, but let me ask you this. Let's say the government doesn't get involved. I'm going to say that the Houston robot sex parlor, with the level of depravity in the United States and a city like Houston, although it's kind of a suburban city, it's large, they're going to make buco bucks. It's going gangbusters, okay? I mean, line out the door, sex robot brothel. What will that encourage? More sex robot brothels. And right now, it's basically like a motorized real doll, I think. I used to watch, I remember when...
Motorized? How do you know that they're motorized? What kind of research have you been doing there, Jason?
Well, I was getting into that, Luke. If you'd allow me to continue, I was going
motorized.
to say...
I want to know about this.
Well, again, if you'd let me continue, Luke, thank you so much. Remember when you were like, I don't know, at least me, I'm 39 years old, when I was a teenager and you were watching HBO, and HBO back then had a show called Real Sex, and it was really risky. And back then, they were showing you things like the real doll. And then Howard Stern bought them, and you would see those. And now it's progressed to the point where, like, yes, I guess they have some motorized parts or whatever. That's the only reason that they're able to call these.
Do you start it off like a lawnmower? Do you start off the sex doll?
I don't know, Luke. I'm just going by what the Guardian's telling me. I was.
Okay.
It may have a lawnmower. There may be buttons. I don't know how it's going to go, but we do know how it's going to end. It's going to end like the last one ended in Europe with a hygiene problem. Because if you think that somebody else's sex doll is going to be sanitary, I would say think again. I don't.
But shouldn't that be the responsibility of the human being deciding? I mean, it's common sense. It's devil's advocate. Let's say I'm going into a sex robot brothel place, right? I'm walking in there. You think, as a human being, I don't think like, hey, this is a brothel. These are not virgin robots. I don't think they're
virgin robots.
It's virgin robots that haven't been deflowered yet. I think people know what they're getting themselves into, and I think if people want to be dumbasses and put their willies in some used robot vajayjays or that are motorized, let them do it. Why does big government have to come in? Like, do you want big government coming away and spanking your fork out of your hand because your fork isn't washed enough?
No.
Like,
but hold on. All right, that's not my argument. Listen, I'm not saying, listen, if you're not.
And then we have to pay a government sex robot inspector that comes around with his little chart and his glasses being like, this robot's up to code. This robot's not up to code. There's going to be food rating, hygiene style, government inspections of sex robot brothel places. Is that what you want, Jason?
What I would like, Luke, is some reason and to live in a world, Luke, that you could understand where let's go with this scenario. Because you know what?
You want Big Daddy government coming in being like, no, you can't put your willy in a used robot hole.
I want to let people do what they want to do in private. You want to own a sex robot, that's fine. But let's just say this scenario. Old status Jason Burmis finally makes his way to his dream log cabin, a little bit off the grid, but not too off the grid, right? He's in a nice little community, and all of a sudden, Johnny Walnuts from Toronto, apparently, comes on down and says, you know what? Log cabin sex robot brothel right here. Wants to move it into my neighborhood. Me and my neighbors are furious. We have children, we shouldn't have a say. We shouldn't be able to go to our local government and say, you know what? We don't want a sex robot brothel in here. Now who's the libertarian guy? Huh? Huh? Oh, am I wrong? Mr. Devil's
You're totally
Advocate?
wrong. If someone wants to conduct a sex brothel business, they should be able to do it. If people, the market will decide, the people will decide if they want to patron that business and give it business.
Oh, people will give that a
People
business.
can
I guarantee
decide
it.
for themselves whatever decisions they want to make. That's my personal opinion. And I mean, yeah, I mean, everyone's reasonable, and obviously, if people aren't reasonable, they're going to lose business. If a company's being bad, people are going to, you know, there's not going to be any robot pimps out there. There's not going to be.
Well, you know what? Here's the deal, and then I'm going to end my point on this. Somebody in the comments just made a really great point. What if it's not sex robots? What if it's a thing like fracking? And we have seen that in reality. And should government step in there? The government is supposed to be there for the people. We are the constituents. We're supposed to have elected officials
so the
that
government
represent
shouldn't be
us.
stopping people from using robot holes. Fracking is a whole different issue because it does affect the community. It does affect
You
people
don't
living in
think that
community,
a bunch
and
of people coming into town to have sex with robots affects the community?
your water and your land and your air being changed is a lot different than a person deciding to put his willy into a robot hole.
No.
That's a lot. That's a
No.
big difference here.
See, that's where I'm differing. You may say that the water is necessary. I'm saying you're warping minds. Hey, listen, Uncle Jason, Uncle
It's
Jason,
like
I'm with
me
the
as
two
an
kids
individual,
now, Luke.
you
Uncle
use a little
Jason,
robot thingy, right?
why is that
I
man in
don't
the
hurt
trench
anybody.
coat going in the funny
if you
building?
use a robot thingy, no one's hurt, right? I'm not destroying someone's water, land, air. I'm not destroying someone's way of life. If,
All right,
you know,
I want to move on. Here's another wacky story.
Well, we got a chat from one of our members by our Guile, and he says, next, your tax dollars are going to pay for the sex robot inspections, the enforcement, and to cure people of sex robot withdrawals. Yeah, is that what you want, Jason?
Oh, no, but I want to thank Avitas, not only for the super chat saying happy Sunday, guys, robot lives matter, but I also want to thank him for joining and being a member. And as I see,
we could keep debating this. We could disagree. We could agree to disagree. I was mainly playing devil's advocate. To me, this is still a sign of the apocalypse, and it's going to cause the human population to dwindle down into non-existence, and will lead to our future destruction of our way of life and civilization, and is a derogatory thing that is horrible, and hopefully it will be stopped without government, but with people deciding to be better, because the more that government censors it, the more that government tries to stop it, just like the war on drugs, just like the prohibition that they try to put on, the more they make it popular. And what the Houston mayor is doing right now, it's making more people curious about robot sex, because the government is saying, no, you can't have it, because I'm Big Daddy government. I'm going to tell you how to live your life and where you put your woohoo into what kind of robotic mechanized machine, because I know better for you and I decide your life and I am ruler and king of your existence. That's why the robot sex business is going to become more popular, because the government now prohibiting it. That's my take on it. Yeah, it was Friday.
now we're on Friday, and I totally disagree. And Avitas says in the comments, Luke wants to live next to a robot whorehouse. Moving on. LAX allows pot in airport, but TSA says it's still a crime. Kind of a
that's
conundrum.
another great government institution paid for by your tax dollars there, Jason. The TSA. You must love them.
They're my favorite. You know that.
Must love the blue. You can't have robot sex, but you get the blue glove treatment if you bring on 4 ounces of water on a plane, and they get to put their fist up your hoo-hoo and touch your boobies. But that's okay. That government's okay, right, Jason?
No, actually, it's not. And I've actually protested one of my most viral videos that was taken down because InfoWars, instead of just promoting it, decided to repost it without my permission. And now it's pulled after millions of views. I got one with a few 100,000. Actually protested the body scanners, the groping, the fact I can't have toothpaste, because all that was based on an illusion of imagination land men with box cutters, a story of nonsense, a movie script basically, and I don't want to go off on that, but yeah, no, I don't agree that the TSA is completely incompetent. If we used private security, it would be 10 times as efficient and a tenth the cost, and perhaps we wouldn't have to deal with this nonsense. First of all, can we just decriminalize marijuana federally? Isn't it time we treat people like adults, Luke? I mean, that's the big loophole right now. Obviously, trafficking marijuana from state to state, where some states it's legal and some states it's not. And that's this big paradox. And LAX, I mean, what are they supposed to do? There are so many people with prescriptions now that are just dropping people off and allowing it through. And then, the TSA, unfortunately, being the government bureaucracy that it is, and I disagree with it in full, by the way. I think it should be replaced by privatized security. I think they're awful. They're absolutely terrible, and they have gone to even greater lengths. Not only do they want you to go through the body scanners now, but you want to pat down on top of it. The groping has to stop. We've seen appalling cases with that. But they're put onto this ridiculous law. So at a little point, I'm almost sympathetic. So let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's get into the meat of the potatoes. Where's the beef? Decriminalize it.
Get rid of government? Is that what you said, Jason? Get rid of government. Get rid of government regulations and controls. Yeah. We got another comment by one of our members, by Argyle, who says state law trumps federal law. I agree. I think decentralization of power is good. There's a bunch of other comments in there that we're going to read off in just a little bit. But what are we on? Saturday now? Saturday story?
Oh, we're here to Saturday. And Lord Bezos of Amazon has been sending out 45-minute animated videos warning people at Whole Foods and, of course, their manufacturers, to their managers, warning them about unionizing and what the unionizing terminology may be. So if you hear signs, Luke, that workers want a living wage, or that they have a grievance, or perhaps they'd like a contract or representation, them are union words, and they need to be stopped, because we know that a vast majority of the people working at Amazon are actually on government subsistence as well, because they don't pay a living wage.
Yeah, Amazon is the biggest corporate government whore out there that exists in our current civilization, abusing the system, the welfare system, the tax break system, and just being an evil, maniacal company that, of course, is tied in with the CIA and the Pentagon, doing the most atrocious things that could ever do. And they are one of the most biggest companies out there that need to be stopped. A lot of people mix in collective bargaining as a position on the left. It's actually a very capitalistic, free kind of position where people get to decide in the group how they want to be treated by their representative. I think that is the most capitalistic thing that you could do. Amazon is one of the most communistic organizations out there that is gaining more power and control, mainly because of government. And of course, it's a big threat for people to unionize, people to organize, people to collectively bargain, to decide, hey, I'm a worker, I deserve a bathroom break, and not to be timed on it and have to pee in bottles like most of the Amazon workers have to do, who get paid crap and have to be on government assistance, and our tax dollars being used to prop up that multinational corporation that doesn't give a damn about you and is building artificial intelligence and quantum computing that's going to ultimately rule the world. Sorry, god damn it, gosh darn it, sorry, it came a curse on this channel. Yeah, that's my take on it. Jason, yours?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you on that, my friend. And again, you look at this ridiculous animation. Like, he's got a little beard. He's like the hip. You notice he's like ethnic too. Like he's the everyman. Like they want to make sure that he doesn't look too authoritarian and white. They don't want to race bait with their flash animation or whatever the hell they're using. While they take every worker down. Like, we don't want to see group petitions. Like, it's the most. First of all, it shows how society has become more and more childlike, and how we love authoritarianism, and that's a problem, okay? I'll agree with you there. I'm that much of a libertarian. We love to allow people to talk down to us like this. Like, oh, he's wearing the same vest that my worker wears. It's like you're watching a cartoon about oppressing the people that work under you. This is really bad news, and it makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, it absolutely should. It should make everyone vomit, and it should make everyone aware not to vote with your dollar towards Amazon. I stopped using Amazon as much as I could. I used to use them because they were very easy, they were very convenient, but you're ultimately fueling the downfall of human civilization. That's how severe it is. I'm not even being hyperbolic in that statement. If you look at all the contracts, if you look at their business dealings, if you look at the bigger, longer plan that Amazon has, they ultimately want unlimited power and control, which is only being given to them because of, Jason, your favorite term, government. So that's why I disagree with them. Let's get into Sunday's story, and then I want to disagree with you when it comes to Conor McGregor and Khabib and the fight coming up in 6 days.
Yeah, you're going to be sorry about that one. So,
no, I will not. I will not. Conor's definitely knocking him out. But we have one more story Sunday to cover for you guys, and then we're going to open it up to a larger conversation and a bigger debate between me and Jason about Conor McGregor versus Khabib.
It's Nurmagomedov, you
Same
terrible,
thing.
terrible person. Anyway, for those that didn't watch it last night, and I watched a lot of it, and aside from Trump looking tired, hot, and sweaty, and very red, he said some things last night about him and Kim Jong-un that I was actually pretty happy about. They fell in love, Luke. This is where, they're together again for the very first time. I want to play some of it because I think we can actually do that now. So let's see if you can hear it and the audience can hear it. Hopefully this goes well. And hopefully it will play on CNN's site. Come on.
I like him, he likes me. I guess that's okay. Am I allowed to say that? Am I allowed to say that? We've come a long way since you know the term, right? We've come a long way. But we could have been in something. Now, I'm not saying what's going to happen. Who knows? We're going to have another meeting. Chairman Kim would like to have another meeting. We'll have a meeting. You know what they did? The other day on a Good Network, I had one of the anchors say, "Why has President Trump given up so much?" I didn't give up anything. Really. I didn't give up anything. What did I give up? I gave up nothing. Why have I given up? The only thing I gave up was I agreed to meet. Boy, we lost a lot, right? In other words, I agreed to meet. I gave up nothing. They're just fakers. They don't know what to do. It's driving them crazy. They're loco. It's driving them crazy. We gave up so much. So, we are doing great. That was a big, big problem. And you know the interesting, when I did it, and I was really being tough, and so was he, and we would go back and forth, and then we fell in love, okay? No, really. He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters. We fell in love. But you know what? Now they'll say, Donald Trump said they fell in love. How horrible. How horrible is that? So unpresidential.
And I agree with him there. I think that's a good thing, Luke. I really do. I think that, obviously, to having more conversations, not starting wars, using diplomacy, this is a positive thing. And this is where I end up being somewhat sympathetic to Donald Trump. I know that you... Go ahead.
One of the few things that you got to give credence and credit to Donald Trump is, of course, helping broker the peace deal between North and South Korea. Doesn't make it's a good thing. It's good, especially with the signs that we saw with North Korea and South Korea just a few days ago, with them officially coming to more conversations, sitting down at the table again, officially closing the war, and talking things long term about opening up the borders and being two separate countries that cooperate with each other more and more. It's a good thing to see that threat be eliminated and no one worrying about nuclear warfare like it has been hyped up between North Korea, South Korea, and the United States. So yeah, I agree with you. Good thing.
That's all. That's all I wanted to say. Not everything's negative.
Look at Donald Trump speaking. Whenever he talks, it's very. It's it's like he definitely studies and understands hypnotherapy. If you look at a lot of world leaders, they talk in very specific mannerisms and many specific ways and many specific tones and also different ways. It's very hypnotic.
The term, Luke,
how Trump is talking, and you got to say, if there's another thing you could say about Trump to give him credence on, is his effectiveness with him getting his message across. I was actually hanging out with a hypnotherapist down in Mexico, and he told me about a lot of this stuff and how language and how communication is used to hypnotize people. And Trump is very effective at that. Barack Obama, I believe, was just as good, if not better, than Donald Trump. And Bush was just horrible. But when it comes to getting his message across, Trump does it in a very, very calculated way that needs to be addressed. And I think I will address later on this YouTube channel and have specific hypnotherapists on to describe all the techniques that he's using there on everyone to kind of make him more agreeable and make him more favorable amongst many people.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he has so many people at his large events. That's why he has so many rallies and so many people come out, because he's so galvanizing, because he knows how to hypnotize people. And everything is pretty much, hypnotherapy, especially when you look at the mainstream media, especially you look at communication forms, entertainment. It's a whole another subject that I'm going to be looking into more. If there's any resources that anyone wants to share with me, it's a topic that I'm learning about right now. Definitely feel free to message me on my Twitter, twitter.com/LukeWeAreChange, LukeWeAreChange on Twitter, and I would love to have a bigger discussion about hypnotherapy and more psychological issues that I think are more important to get into, that we're going to be covering and exploring on our YouTube channel. Now, the bigger topic, the most important topic that I want to talk about with Jason and disagree with him is, of course, how Conor McGregor is going to knock the silly putty out of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib is losing in 6 days from now at the major UFC event without a clear doubt. And we have a bet going, too, about this. Don't we, Jason?
I mean, it's not much of a bet. I'm basically going to show up Sunday, the day after the murder show that we're all going to watch, where Khabib Nurmagomedov, whose father, by the way, did not get a passport to come into the country for the fight due to the dealings with that shady Russian oligarch that we covered last week, by the way, Luke. I thought you'd find that interesting. Because what's not going to be interesting is the piss pounding that Mr. McGregor will be taking for about, I'd say, 3 rounds. I'd say by the end of the 3rd round, either McGregor will be tapping due to strikes, or in the beginning of the 4th round, he'll turn to his corner and say, "I've made enough money, could you please throw in the towel?" Because that's the kind of fighter McGregor is. He's going to get murdered. And let's say let's say the multiverse is real, and that some kind of quantum event happens, and our reality shifts into one where somehow McGregor gets a lucky punch in and knocks him out, which is not going to happen, but let's say it did.
It's not a lucky punch, but anyway, go on.
Let's say that happened. It's not going to. I'm extremely confident of that. I'd bet just about anything. I will be buying 3 separate Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they will be joining me on Sunday's broadcast. That's a promise.
Yeah, looking forward to that, because that's exactly what's going to happen there. I mean, okay, like there's different arguments happening about this specific fight, mainly because Khabib is undefeated in the UFC. He has pretty much taken down every fighter, even though there was one fight that he should have lost that went to decision that was unfairly ruled on.
Nonsense.
But if you look at Khabib, he's pretty much dominated almost every round that he has been in the entire UFC history. He has won almost every single round throughout his whole entire career inside the UFC. And you might say, yeah, he's definitely going to destroy, and as you call it, a little piss pounding on McGregor. But I don't believe so, because Khabib has only fought 2 out of the top 15 fighters in that whole division. He won the belt in a way that wasn't even fair. He never fought Ferguson. He never fought McGregor until now. He got the title when 2 former champs lost their belts at the same time. And if you look at his performance, he's a sloppy boxer. He just runs at you. And this is his main weakness. Conor McGregor, like, if you look at the way he fights, he is an absolute mastermind. He doesn't get lucky. He specifically times everything. And if you look at the psychology of him, it's not only just very entertaining to fight, but if you look at the bigger kind of psychological breakdown of what Conor's doing, it's fascinating. One of the things that he does is he kind of stands there with you. He has a bigger reach than Khabib. He has, 74 inches? Khabib has 70 inches. Those 4 inches are going to make a big difference. But when he's fighting somebody, he specifically hits in a way where he backs up his hips to see that his reach isn't that big, and just throws another punch, and then makes the fighter think that this is the limit that he could get close to, and then what he does is he hides it, and he used that momentum for the fighter to come forward, and when the fighter comes forward, he uses that momentum and then counters perfectly in the most genius ways. If you look at all of his past fights, whether Aldo or Alvarez, it is masterful. The second Nick Diaz fight, he has learned that specific effect to back away, have his enemy come in, and use the force of his very own enemy with his punches to completely knock people out. That, it's not luck. It's very, very detailed. What he does, and there's no way with the sloppy boxing with Khabib just moving forward that he's going to be able to beat McGregor, even from a technical breakdown. And Khabib is just a horrible human being. Let's just be honest about this.
What are you talking about? A horrible human being?
Yes, the dude has no soul, no energy, nothing. There's nothing there. There's only this wall of someone who looks like he just ate his forehead somehow and came out the other side. And then, if you look at the interviews that he did, he was interviewed about his child being born at the same time that he was having a UFC fight.
Yeah,
And Helwani, one of the UFC reporters, not UFC reporters, but one of the reporters who covers the UFC, asked him, he was like, wasn't it tough with your baby being born in the same day that you were having a major fight? And Khabib, I'm gonna paraphrase here. He's like, "No, I don't care. We no care. We no, no, it no matter. It no matter. It no kid. No important." And I'm like, you son of a bitch! Your wife just had a kid. You're not even there to support her. You don't even give a damn that you weren't there to support her. There's no, he was just trained to be a robot his entire life, to just pound and beat people up. And there's no charisma. There's no soul. There's no energy. There's no family. There's only dedication towards hurting people. And that's someone, again, I don't know. I just totally have no respect for. And I know he's going to lose, technically, looking at the side of this story. And just also, I just don't see him as a good human being with the interviews and the way he described himself and the way he lives his life and the way he was raised. Sorry, that's just my opinion.
It's a terrible opinion, and I am so sure right now on the air that Khabib's going to win. That I'd like to say, if you want to man up, I mean, we could have it so, loser wears lipstick for the entire Sunday broadcast.
No.
It could be eye makeup. It could be a funny hat. We could put on a clown nose. You name it. It's Halloween. We pretty much have access to anything.
People in the comment section are going to be asking for. Let's see what the people in the comment section when they want to levy this. I'm confident. I'm very confident that Conor's going to win. Even though he's coming off not fighting for a very long time. I'm still very confident, but let the people in the comment section decide what the stakes are here. But I'm willing to negotiate here. We got another super chat by Jesse Schmidt. He says, after Khabib loses, what fight are we betting on? John Jones. I also like John Jones. I think he's a great fighter. Definitely way better than the Milk Dud.
Oh my God, the Milk Dud. You kill me, dude.
People are saying that one of us would have to wear a MAGA hat if the other fighter loses. Cormier is a Milk Dud. Loser wears a dress. Loser has to wear Khabib's hat. Okay, we're getting some interesting stuff. I don't think we have to decide this now. I think that we still got 6 days to decide this, bad case.
I mean, just basically decide what you can live with.
I don't know if I'm okay with the feminization being described.
Like I said, we can get a clown nose. It's Halloween.
Have enough of those problems in our society. I don't think I would want to play in a gender experiment here on this broadcast. We got another super chat by Jesse Smith. He says, if Khabib wins, unlikely Luke has to name 10 things he likes about government. That's going to be also very difficult. I don't know if that's even possible, Jesse. It's going to be very difficult. User has to use a sex robot. That could be one of the things. You're pretty close to Toronto there, right, Jason?
I'm too many hours away. I think it's like a 4-hour drive, 5-hour drive to go get a sex robot. I don't think so.
That could be. You could have to do a deep investigative report on a very thorough one.
I've got a great one, Luke. How about we do this? So it's not a clown mask or a lipstick or something effeminate. Like I said, it's absolutely Halloween, and loser has to go get a presidential mask, past or present, and wear it for the entire show. It can be anything.
So annoying.
I remember I was Bush one year. I went as Bush in a black cloak with a Bohemian Grove logo on it one year. A lot of people didn't get that one back in the day. They might today. I think I did that in 2004. And somebody else was John Kerry with me. It's a good time. Good time.
People in the comments section are saying, yeah, Luke already has a clown nose. No need to buy one as far as aesthetics there. That's one possibility. We could also discuss that. Let's think about this more. But we do need to set a high level here. We do need to set a high bar here because I feel very passionate about this. And Conor McGregor is definitely going to be winning and destroying Khabib without a doubt. We got another super chat by Nonpartisan Media. Loser has to wear ladies' underwear on their head for the stream. A lot of feminization talk here, but that's a whole nother issue. It's a whole nother topic that deserves its own live stream. All right, I think that's it, Jason. I think we still got more negotiations to go, but I think we went through every story Sunday through Monday. Talked about all the important stuff that's happening with a bigger context. And I want to thank you, Jason, for joining us. I want to thank everyone who participated in this broadcast, gave us super chats, and was a part of this show. You guys are more important than ever. And thanks for being here with us. Jason, any last words?
Yeah, please subscribe to the backup channel, Pulse Change. Go check out our Facebook as well. We post a lot of these stories and a lot more that we don't get to talk about or do videos about over there as well. Follow us on Twitter at WeAreChange NYC. And, of course, be the change you want to see in the world.
Robot prostitutes for everyone. Bye.